What if the one thing you have been searching for your entire life was never something anyone else could give you? Most people spend decades looking for permanence in their children, in their marriages, and in the homes they carefully build together. And then, one quiet day, the children grow up, the years pass, and the house grows still. And a gentle question begins to rise from somewhere deep inside. If all of that can change, then what is it that truly stays? The answer may be the most important thing you hear this year. Welcome to the Wisdom Vault, the place where we have honest and warm conversations about the things that matter most in the second half of life. If you are over 65, you already know that life has a way of quietly shifting around you. The people and roles that once gave your days their shape begin to change. And many people in this season of life find themselves wondering who they are now that so much looks different. Today, we are going to talk about something that has been with you every single day of your life and will never once leave you. And my hope is that by the end of this conversation, you will feel it more clearly than ever before. Point 1. The one constant that has traveled with you through every season of your life. Throughout your life, so much has changed. The people around you have come and gone. The home you live in may have changed more than once. Your body has changed. Your circumstances have changed. And the world itself has changed in ways that would have been unimaginable when you were young. But through every single one of those changes, one thing has remained completely constant. You, and not the roles you played or the responsibilities you carried, but the deeper part of you. The part that noticed beauty when it passed, the part that felt love and loss and quiet joy, and the kind of tiredness that only comes from genuinely trying your best. Think of a woman named Margaret, who was 72 years old and had spent her whole life so focused on her husband, her children, and her grandchildren that she had barely noticed herself at all. One afternoon, sitting in her garden with a cup of tea, she realized something that made her put the cup down and sit very still. She realized that no matter what had changed around her over the decades, her love of the morning light had never once changed. Her curiosity about the world had never faded. Her deep and quiet sense of right and wrong had never shifted. That was her, and that was the part that had always been there and would always remain. And when she recognized it that afternoon, something inside her felt like it had finally come home. Point 2. Why a lifetime of loving others can quietly make you a stranger to yourself. If you have spent most of your adult life caring for other people, whether that was raising children, supporting a spouse, caring for aging parents of your own, or simply being the person that everyone else leaned on, then there is something I want you to understand with great kindness and without any judgment at all. It is very possible that in all those years of giving, you gradually forgot to give to yourself, not because you were careless, and not because you were wrong to love as deeply as you did. No, but simply because that is what happens when a heart spends decades pouring itself outward. Arthur was a man of 78 who had worked hard his entire life and been a devoted father and husband. When his children were grown and his wife had passed, he found himself sitting in a house full of memories and feeling strangely empty inside. He told his youngest son one afternoon that he had spent so many years being someone for everyone else that he had no idea who he was when there was no one left to be someone for. And what his son said in return surprised him deeply. He said, "Dad, you're still in there. You never left. You just forgot to look." Before we move on, I want to ask you a gentle question. When was the last time you did something purely for yourself? Something that had nothing to do with being useful to anyone else, and everything to do with simply being you? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this video is helping you, please like it, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the Wisdom Vault. Also, please watch until the very end, because the points ahead are just as important and may truly make a difference in your life. Point 3. What it truly means to come home to yourself. After all these years, coming home to yourself does not mean becoming selfish, and it does not mean turning away from the people you love. What it means is simply this: It means beginning to treat yourself with the same gentleness, the same patience, and the same care that you have given to others your whole life long. It means listening to what you need, what you enjoy, and what brings a quiet sense of aliveness to your ordinary days. Margaret began her journey back to herself with something almost embarrassingly simple. Each morning, before she reached for her phone or turned on the television, she would sit by her kitchen window for 10 minutes with her tea and simply watch the garden. She was not thinking about her children or her responsibilities. She was just there, with herself, in the quiet. And over the weeks and months that followed, something shifted inside her. She began to feel less hollow and less like she was waiting for life to happen. She began to feel like she was actually living it. Coming home to yourself does not require grand gestures or sweeping changes. It begins with 10 minutes of quiet honesty, and it grows from there into something that feels, after a while, like the truest kind of freedom you have ever known. And the beautiful thing about this journey is that it does not require anything complicated, because the small and simple habits you build each day are the very things that keep this connection to yourself alive. Point 4. The gentle daily habits that keep you connected to the one thing that is always yours. You do not need to reinvent your life to begin living from the inside out. What you need are small, consistent moments that belong entirely to you. Moments that remind you gently and daily that your life has meaning and texture and beauty that exists completely independently of anyone else's presence. Perhaps it is a morning walk that you take not for your health, but simply because you love the way the air feels at that hour and the way the world looks before it gets too busy. Perhaps it is writing a few lines each evening in a small notebook. Nothing formal or elaborate, just a memory from the past, something that made you smile today, or a question that has been sitting quietly in your mind. Perhaps it is cooking a meal you genuinely love, or listening to music that carries you somewhere warm, or sitting in a favorite corner of your home where you can simply breathe and be. Arthur began doing something very small each morning. He would sit in his favorite chair by the window and name 3 things he was grateful for, out loud, in a quiet voice, as if he were telling them to someone who was listening. And over time, he realized that someone was listening. It was him, and that made all the difference. When you begin to nurture this relationship with yourself, something unexpected and beautiful also begins to happen in the relationships you have with your family. Point 5. How knowing this truth quietly transforms the way you love everyone around you. Here is something that may surprise you. When you stop relying on your children or your grandchildren to be the source of your happiness, the relationship does not become colder or more distant. It actually becomes warmer, freer, and more genuinely joyful, because you are no longer coming to them with an invisible weight of need that neither of you can quite name. You're coming to them whole. You're coming as a person who is at peace with themselves, and that kind of presence is a gift that no amount of effort or money could ever replace. Margaret noticed this in her relationship with her daughter. Once she had stopped measuring her happiness by how often the phone rang, the calls that did come felt entirely different. They felt like genuine connection rather than relief. When her daughter visited, so Margaret was fully present and joyful rather than quietly counting down the days until the next visit. And her daughter noticed it too. She told her one afternoon, "Mum, you seem like yourself again." And Margaret smiled and said something she had only recently come to understand. She said, "I think I finally gave myself permission to be." That is what happens when you stop looking outward for the one thing that was always, already yours. The one thing that will never leave you is you, your memories, your wisdom, your quiet capacity for love and peace. That has always been yours, and it always will be. You gave a lifetime to others. Now give a little of that same gentleness back to yourself. You have earned it completely and without question. Thank you for being here at the Wisdom Vault. If this touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe so we can keep having these conversations together. Until next time, you're enough. You always were.